This is The Healthy Healer, where true voice is your medicine. This is where we help doctors and other healers navigate through the challenging times by learning from the best minds in the healing industry. Laugh, cry, and be surprised. It's entertainment, education, and inspiration so you can continue to be the unique and amazing healer you were destined to be. Welcome to humanity. Welcome to The Healthy Healer with Dr. Fred.
Okay, hello everyone. It's Dr. Fred, and welcome back to an amazing new episode of The Healthy Healer. And today we have another and a real spectacular guest to share with you. I can't wait to have this interview with Jessie Torres this afternoon, because what we're really up to together is a unified intention. The two of us are aligned in many ways. And as I look at Jessie's bio, I learned that she's a founder of a couple different things, Fierce Grace Transformation. She's a strategist, an awaken, activate, and actualize life strategist, a motivational speaker, and a heart-driven performance coach. So it sounds like what Jessie's really up to is making a difference in people's lives by reminding them how really amazing they are inside of conversations and perhaps other modalities that she likes to explore. So without further ado, we're both going to learn a little bit more about who Jessie Torres is, how she got to be who she is, and what she's up to in her life right now. So Jessie, welcome to The Healthy Healer. It's great to have you as a guest.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. I'm super happy to be here. I appreciate you letting me share with your audience. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit. Basically, I like to start off the interviews with a simple 9-letter question. And this is a question that it's only 9 letters. It's grammatically correct and it's powerful. It's an easy one to answer for some, and it throws some back on her heels. And it is, again, a little bit compelling and thought-provoking. So here, you ready for it? Here it comes. Jessie Torres, who are you?
Jessie Torres is someone who has a deep, profound love of humanity and wants to help end suffering.
All right. And what does that look like, to end suffering of humanity? How do you see that to happen?
Honestly, that's such a great question. I see it as honestly coming back to the purity and the beauty and the innocence of a child, the child that lives within, coming back to that wholeness, the essence of who we are. I think along our journey, we've lost our way based on the experiences we've had and what I call heart armor that we've built.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about, what did you call it? The essence of a child, or how did you put it?
The innocence of a child.
Innocence of a child. And how do we refine that? How do we rediscover that as humans, as adults humans who somehow have separated ourselves from back in the day when we were just children? Like, what happened to us, number one, and how can we get back to really getting the innocence of our childhood rediscovered, rekindled, and resurfaced?
I think it was the first moment that the human experienced a loss of safety. In that moment, it's like what we don't know today is the way that we get back to that is identifying, where do we have limitation in our life right now? Where are we not where we want to be? If you do the pie of life, are you at a 10 on all levels? If not, why not? And where is the contraction? Where is the fear? Where is the thing that's stopping you from moving that needle to making your life extraordinary? And oftentimes those limitations thread back to a moment, the very first time the child lost safety. There's an association there from our experience. And then we start to build one wall of armor. And then we start to show up in ways that we think we need to in order to be loved and accepted, because we don't have an understanding as to why we lost safety to begin with.
Yeah. It sounds like you're equating a little bit this loss of safety to the sense of being accepted. Like, in some ways, maybe when I was a child, something happened and I felt like maybe I didn't belong, or that maybe the return to feeling accepted or acceptable by the world around me would require a sense of a rekindled or rediscovered safety, a sense of safety, or maybe another way to put it, a quenching of my experience of having safety lost. Now, whether or not safety was lost isn't really what's important, right? It's more that I had an experience that I lost safety, and that's where I created my contraction. So what is my what is the pathway that I'm to explore to rediscover a sense of safety or to relinquish or just extinguish, and maybe that's more better word, extinguish the sense of danger? I guess are we using the loss of safety and the presence of danger as being synonymous with each other?
Yes, but yes and no, because sometimes it isn't danger, it's just unknown, right? But in our system, it feels unsafe,
Hmm.
right? And we're talking about what the child made meaning around when they experienced a moment of trauma. A trauma can be your first day in kindergarten, a kid takes your lunchbox and eats your favorite snack.
Yeah,
All of a sudden, you don't understand. Why did they do that? That wasn't nice. Why don't
that
they
would be
like me?
horribly traumatic, of
Right.
course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Like you start to anchor all these meanings, right? Why aren't they
yeah,
nice to me? So then the next day you grip your lunch pail a little tighter.
yeah.
Now
That-
that hypervigilance is created. Maybe the kid will never do it again, but we
right.
have assessed danger or an unknown. I don't know if he's going to do it again. He might. He did it yesterday. Why wouldn't he? And all these meanings start to stack in our psyche. So I like to explain that because people think, oh, I don't have trauma, or I forgave my parents. I'm good. I didn't. And it's, again, trauma can be big trauma, but it can also be a moment that the child created meaning around an experience that was unexpected or hurtful,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, I remember there was a time. So you're bringing up some real serious memories in elementary school. I was really tall. I was really smart. I was very talkative, extremely talkative. There's no teacher who forgot having me as a student, that's for sure. I was precocious. I was athletic. I was like this kid. I was the tallest and the smartest and the fastest speaking and all of that. And I think all of my class. And there was this kid who was a safety patrol kid. His name was Wayne, and I'm not even gonna say his last name because if he ever listens, I don't even want I'm, like, I'm still afraid of him. That one day I tried to cross on Gardner. It was on Gardner and Dartmouth, on the corner, Dartmouth
Mhm.
and yeah. Yeah, it was on that corner. I was walking home, and I tried to cross, and he didn't want me to cross, and he told me to
Mm.
go back. He told me to go back, he was gonna kick my ass, and I was like, the dude was bigger than me. He was 1 grade older than me, and had a belly, and he was, like, known to be a bully, and I was totally terrified of him and anyone like him for the rest of my life to this very day.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, I actually would on Gardner and Dartmouth, the corner, on Gardner and Dartmouth, I would get to that corner, and I would cross Dartmouth so that I could cross on the way where Wayne wasn't the safety patrol guy, and I would do
Right.
that in the summer, I would do it in the spring, in the winter, in the fall, like, for the rest of my that was in 4th grade. I think I was in 4th and he was in 5th when that happened, and for the next 2.5 years, I never saw his corner anymore.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned that you have that up to this day. How do you think that has affected your adult life?
Yeah, I just think that there was always a sense that if I didn't do what I would say, I might get my ass kicked. There was something like really being afraid, of feeling like my ass was gonna get kicked that day. I was, like, scared to start home from school every day. And I think from this very day, I just feel it right now. I think I have really resolved a great deal. I've been in psychoanalysis and I've done tons of psychotherapy, and I've really done a whole lot of growth and development and my own personal work, helping other people. I've done like spiritual work and meditations and all of these things. Not very many of them, not very moments have been aimed at Wayne, I might say. I've not really thought of that as being a big issue. But as I speak to it today, I get that it hit deep because here I am at 66 and, I'm 66 years old and this happened when I was like, what, 9? So we're talking 57 years
Yeah.
ago, and it still has a lasting impact for sure.
That situation, let's say somebody else, that could have prevented speaking to the boss to get a raise. They could have prevented, there's so many ways that Wayne shows up in other people or other
Mhm.
situations that now
Yeah.
we have that behavior because
Yeah.
that he represents the trigger or the wound that's not taken care of. And so we
Right.
behave and we don't realize it. We're just like, I don't know. I don't think I don't think it's time for a raise right now. I think next time or whenever we talk ourselves
Right.
out of it. And what we're not doing is we're not connecting that thread back to that moment. And that's
Right.
why we find ourselves limited and frustrated, and we don't know why.
Yeah.
And we have achievers that have achieved great things. And
Yeah.
sometimes they're chasing worthiness on their achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Was maybe
Yeah.
their dad told them they'd never amount to anything.
Yeah.
Or maybe their mom left when they were 2 years old and they're trying to prove themselves. And what
Mhm.
they don't realize is that now the business becomes their worthiness. And when the business doesn't go well, they completely plummet into depression because they're equating their worthiness on that business. And so this is why it's so important. They're literally hidden truths as to why we have limitation today.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about Fierce Grace. Your idea about Fierce Grace is, I suspect, is that where you take on topics like this? Is
Yes.
this one of the things that Fierce Grace does? Okay. So tell us a little bit about the evolution and maybe the genesis of Fierce Grace. And you mentioned in your bio that it's easy, that it's here and we can actually make gains quickly and effectively, efficiently, and seemingly rather painlessly at this point in our life, so that we can open up new avenues that can give us some degree of satisfaction or joy or worthiness or aim purpose into our life. How does that work with Fierce Grace, and how did you develop in the first place?
I developed it out of my own pain. I
Yeah.
came from 18 years of child abuse with my father and immediately jumped into another 18 years in an abusive marriage. And because again, I didn't resolve anything. I was running from my dad's clutches and I fell right into what I thought at that point was somebody who loved me with what I had already equated as filth. I felt dirty and shameful and unlovable because I was stained because of what happened to me with my father. And when this guy entered my world and loved me after I told him everything and he still wanted to be with me, it short circuit. I call it short circuit moments. It short circuited my brain to say, wait, you love me with all my filth? Oh my God. And I fell madly in love. So at 18, I told my mom, I'm moving out. I'm moving in with my boyfriend.
Mhm.
And my mom, being of Catholic faith, said, my daughter will not live with a man and not be married. So I moved out Monday. I was married Friday. And from there, he was 21. And I say this with all due respect. I have nothing but love for my ex. However, it's just part of the story. He came from a very abusive alcoholic mother who was brutal to him. And so he only knew how to speak in vulgarities, anger, and rage. And I knew how to hide and be the good girl. So it was the perfect match. In that marriage, came to a point after 18 years of being apathetic and just wanting to die. I didn't know another way out. I just knew that emotionally, mentally, and verbally, I was beaten in every way a human being could be beat. I numbed out and I didn't see another way out until an act of kindness from a group of people at a class that I took short-circuited me again. And I didn't understand what kindness was. I just knew these people were doing something good for me and they didn't ask for anything in return. And I didn't understand that. My dad told me, people want to secretly get in your pants, Jesse. You don't trust anybody. And my ex had told me, people subconsciously want to break up a good marriage, Jess, so don't talk about our marriage to anybody. So I would always look down at the ground because if I made eye contact, I got in trouble. I was called all kinds of names if I smiled at somebody. So I walked and I lived in massive hypervigilance. And when these people behaved in a kind way, I was like, wait a second, what is this? I didn't even know to call it kindness. I just knew that something in me came alive. And in that moment, I thought, if this feeling is available, then life is worth living. And that's what gave me the courage to get out of my marriage. But before that, I just thought, somebody blow the red light so I could be done with this life because I didn't see another way out. And from that moment on, I started to pretty much obsess over the human experience and human development. I wanted to understand the psychology of why my dad did what he did, why my mom ignored it, why my husband did what he did, and why I allowed it. And I started to read. I started to go to workshops, seminars. I worked with shamans. I worked with Tony Robbins. I worked with heart math. I did everything I possibly could to understand why at 38 years old, I was not knowing who the heck I was.
Yeah.
What I wanted. What was life? What was my favorite color? What was my favorite dish? I didn't know because I molded myself to be everything I needed to be in order to keep the peace in my home. And so from that, what I realized and what I learned in all these years, it's been over 20 years now, 22 years, I started to develop massive amounts of grit. Again, I didn't know it. I was in survival. I just knew that I was scared. I was scared of everything. And I knew that if I was going to make a life for me and my children, that I had to freaking move past this pain or fear. So I started to put challenges in my way. Things that scared me, I was a yes to, because I knew I had to overcome this. And so slowly but surely, I started to see how I can get on the other side of what I thought was going to be the rest of my life. And it birthed an insatiable hunger to help other people do the same. And that's really what Fierce Grace is about. Fierce Grace is about taking you through understanding the core essence of who we are, the masculine, feminine, the fierce, the grace, the part of us that can be so loving because love is innate in us, and the part of us that needs to take a stand, right, for ourselves. Not toxic masculinity, but masculinity from the context of being the protector and being the one that can take a stand for things that are right. And how do we come back to our core essence? How do we come back to that beauty? Because I believe that there is no limitation to the human being, only the belief there is one. And that the beauty of a newborn, a child that is perfect in every way when you look at it, there's no difference with us. We are still that magnificence. We just lost our way in the context of the human experience. So Fierce Grace is a fast track. It's 20 years of my work, of what I had to do to come out of apathy, to come out of no money, upside down in every way I could, to come out to living a life that I love. And if I can do it, I know you can too. And in the context of all of that, I've had not only the abuse from my father, my husband, but I've also had both my brothers murdered 30 years apart, 2 different total stories. Didn't expect the last one. It was a year ago. And I still was able to find the light in the darkest moments. And if you can get to your life to recognize that when things are challenging or what we can call negativity or darkness comes our way, there's always light waiting if you seek it.
Fantastic. Jesse, you've created another thing I noticed in your bio, and it's very clear when you speak that there's a sense of cosmic divinity, a sense of maybe the essence of a God creature or something great, a creator. And you spoke already to the religion that you grew up with a little bit, and it really this other thing, this other item or this other entity that I think you're responsible for, something called Army of Angels. Another piece of your work. And first of all, I want to just acknowledge that both of your brothers being murdered, I don't know very many people who have both their brothers murdered. I don't think I've heard a lot of stories, and that's amazing. And 30 years apart on top of that. So my heart is out to you and everyone who is ever affected by either or both of your brothers, and either family, friends, and all the associates, and even now me and our listeners. And how does one take care of trauma like that and have it be that it doesn't leave a lasting scar? It doesn't leave something that has us naturally contracted, naturally in fear, naturally inside of our, our limited beliefs, as Tony would say. Not how do we get to a space of freedom and being able to recognize life on life's terms as it's going on and separate ourselves from our impulse or our reflex to contract, become afraid, and be limited and not be able to carry out what our life's work really is meant to be. Does that count a little bit on your experience with angels and your experience with God and divinity? Or what else are we to put in place along with that? Large question. Sorry for
That's okay. So I'll answer it with a story. When I was 28, I'm 58 now. So 30 years ago, my older brother, who was 29, he was murdered, senseless, stupid murder. A lady that he just started dating for a month, was engaged prior to him. And apparently this guy wanted her back. And my brother didn't even know anything about him. And he was calling her, wanting her back. She was telling him, no, I found somebody better than you. He's better in bed. He smells better than you. This all came out in the court jury. And so basically she loaded the gun. He got so furious that it caused him to seek my brother out and find him, tell him his car was broken down, and asked him for a ride. My brother, being the good Samaritan, said yes. He took him 3 blocks up the street and shot him. ran back to his car that he had the hood up, said it was broken. The manager that walked out with my brother was assistant manager, thought there was something weird about the whole thing. So he had gotten to the freeway, drove back to the parking lot. By the time he drove back to the parking lot, the truck was gone. In that moment, it's those things that you read in the paper, you never believe are going to happen to you. And it was so shocking because my brother was such a good man.
Yeah.
And you don't anticipate something like that. And so I lost all my faith. Like I said, I was raised Catholic. At that time, I was Christian. And in that moment, I flipped God off. I'm like, I don't even know who you are, what you are, if you exist, if you don't. But if you do exist, I hate you for taking my brother. And that was my perspective because I didn't know. I was just so hurt and so angry. And it wasn't until my brother showed himself to me and it's one of those things where the vision is like, it's like figures that look like people, but they're shadowy. It's just this vision that you have. And he just did this with his arm and he said, Jess, everything is as it's supposed to be. And in that moment, I really didn't know what it totally meant, but what I knew is it brought me calm and I felt peace. I knew he was okay. And from that moment on, there's been a rekindling of my connection to spirit. I still don't put myself in a box I call religion. I respect everybody's perspective, but I know that there's something greater than me telling my heart to beat. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And I believe that our journey here in this human experience is to raise humanity, to love each other, if God is love, whatever God is, then our journey here in this lifetime is to come back to that. And when I think about my brother's murder and then fast forward to my little brother, 30 years later, last year, to be murdered senselessly over $1,000, like absolutely just doesn't compute. My spiritual connection, I dug deeper in. I got deeper with my conviction to love. I got deeper in my conviction to learn and how to find the light in my deepest, darkest moments of sorrow, where I felt like I couldn't even hold my body. I was crying so hard. And yet I could still see his daughters. He had 9 children. His daughters, 3 of the oldest are from different mothers they had never met before, who were now hugging like they've known each other forever. I was witness to people posting on his Instagram how he affected their lives. I was seeing my family show up in ways I'd never seen before. And so I was able to see the beauty in my sorrow. And I recognized in that moment that the depth of my sorrow was equal to the amount of love I had. And so my connection to God and spirit and what I want with Army of Angels is for us to unite in light, to bring love to the planet. I believe that we are born in love. We're taught to hate. And we can come back to love again because it's innate in us. It's who we are. It's what we want. It's what we crave, right? We fight for it. We die for it. We kill for it. We might want to pay attention to the essence of what it is and start bringing it back to our brothers and sisters. And if we can unite as an army of angels to love one another to the point that when I spoke to the judge and the gentleman that killed my little brother, and my conversation, my letter to him was not a condemnation. Am I mad he did it? Yes. Am I hurt he did it? Yes. Do I feel I wish my brother was here every day? Absolutely. But I would add to the problem if I condemn him and if I hate him. So my ask is, for whatever reason you were brought into our journey, into our life, my family's, and for whatever reason my brother's gone and you're here, do something with that life.
Yeah.
Make a difference. Change it. This doesn't have to be the end for you. And so I believe everything happens for our highest and greatest good, even the suck. And if we can look at our adversity or our challenges as an opportunity to expand our spirit, we will start to see challenges differently.
Yeah. Incredibly well said. Exquisite. Thank you so much. And I really get it. And again, thanks for the stories, like both stories, true as they are, about the losses of your brother and really the difference between how you initially handled the first brother's loss and who you are 30 years later handling this brother's loss as a sort of an instantaneous understanding and immediate, sort of given a second chance of this senseless murder of a brother to remind you or to show you this time that that everything is the way it should be, and really getting that, really applying that to the loss of his brother as well. So it's really fantastic. Thank you
Thank
for that.
you.
Yeah. And Army of Angels is it Army of Angels and Unshakable Life? Talk to me a little bit about Unshakable Life.
Unshakable life is really where I apply the Fierce Grace method. So that's where I help you find what is your unshakable life. What's your unshakable heart? What's your unshakable perseverance? I think that in the journey of our lives, what we don't recognize is that I know there's a lot of gurus out there that say your past doesn't equal your future. Well, I disagree. We're just not taught to see the other story, right?
Mm.
Our past, if you're here today, whatever past happened to you, whatever hurt you back then, if you're here today, there's a beautiful child that got back up. There's a beautiful human being that with courage decided to live another day, decided to be kind, decided to still succeed, decided to move forward and start a family. We're not taught to see the resilience that is built in those moments where our knees hit the floor. So I believe our past can equal our future. We're just not taught to look for it. If you don't look for the beauty, you will only remember the pain.
Beautiful. If you don't look for the beauty, you will only remember the pain. That suggests something to me, that our default is one towards finding and then living in the pain. In other words, it takes an active, it takes a active consideration, an active commitment to fall away from what would otherwise be there, which would be recognizing and living in the pain. But that's the simple default. That's like the familiarity where we find ourselves when dealing with life's many challenges. And the way through that is to stand up and be active and fight back. Or maybe it's not always a fight, but to have the courage and have the gumption, have the interest and have the passion to get up and be a loving human being, not only for ourselves, but for everybody else that we get to contribute to. So what is it like? We have a few minutes left, Jesse. And I think what I really want to know is, when someone works with you, what can they expect? How long is the commitment? Is it close-ended? And who do they get, and who do they then get to be for themselves as a function of being with any of these few different entities that you've created that are all intermingled with each other?
For sure. So with Fierce Grace, it's a transformation for you. It's an opportunity to come alive again. You know that there's something knocking on your heart that says there's another level of you and you just can't seem to reach it. So how do we untangle the things that are preventing limitation? I love Howard Thurman's quote that says, don't ask what you could do for the world, ask what makes you come alive and go do that, because what the world needs is more people to come alive. And I really feel that with Fierce Grace, I speak life into people. Army of Angels is more of leadership. Now that we've gotten you into your sovereignty, into your strength, into your power, now how do we lead humanity forward? How do we step in leadership, whether it's to be the best parent, whether it's to be the best boss, whether it's to be the best entrepreneur? What does that look like? And how can we use it to give back to people that can't or are at that place where they want it, but they just can't seem to take that step forward? And for me, Army of Angels is boots on ground. It's not just writing a check to a nonprofit. It's actually holding the hand of the elderly or reading to a wounded warrior that doesn't have family. It's sweeping the streets of Hawaii, right, where the fires were, Lahaina. It's literally, what can we do together as a community to help bring change to the planet? So I think that it starts with Fierce Grace because it's with you first, right? We got to take care of you. We got to make sure you're strong, you're empowered, and you're sovereign, and you stand on your own, because we cannot give what we don't own. So let's fill your cup, and then let's help you love from the overflow. Now we can step into leadership, and now we can shift humanity.
That's fantastic.
That's how we create an unshakable life.
Yeah. You cannot give what you don't own. And I think there's some deep, real truth to that. You obviously can't. It's just, if you don't have it on your own, then you're not going to be able to give it to others. Simple as that.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit. How do people find you? How people want to work with you? They can work with you online. Can they be living anywhere in the world? And how do people?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I offer with Fierce Grace as a 12-month course that has you with me and with another group of people that come together to also heal. It's a healing The only three things I ask of you, if you are not able, if you're afraid of vulnerability, or if you're not ready to let the story go, or you're not ready to change the story, then I love you, but it's not our time. This is for people that are ready to take that next step. So that's a 12-week chunk. I also offer one-on-one coaching. And then the leadership is a monthly membership. It is a mastermind.
Okay.
So come to unshakablelife.com or ourarmyofangels.com. And I'm happy to work with you. I think unshakablelife.com is the place where you can book a call with me if you want to have a conversation so that we can discuss what the best place for you is.
Fantastic.
Oh, and I have a little giveaway for your audience.
Yeah, please.
It's a 10-step guide to freedom. And it's a way, no matter what your situation right now, because sometimes we don't realize we're in our own world, we're in our own stuck, and we don't know what we can do. We feel alone. We can't talk sometimes to family because they pick us apart or they take sides or whatever. This 10-step guide will give you practical steps to take right now to step into your life of greatness and to create freedom. So I'm happy to offer that for you. There'll be a link in the show notes.
And it's a 10-step guide to freedom. Okay. All right, Jesse, thank you so much. What an inspiring conversation. Thank you for letting us see who you really are and what you're all about and being able to contagiously capture what it is that you have to offer. I think each and every one of us are moved by being in this conversation with you. You really carry the day very well. It's been a pleasure meeting you and a pleasure exploring with you how you got to be who you are and what you do now, and who you really are as a person and who you are as a human being, who you are being as a human. So a beautiful example of that. Truly appreciate you. Thanks for being on The Healthy Healer. It's just been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fred. I appreciate it.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
All right. We will catch you on the flip side. Bye for now, everyone.